Hello, everybody, and welcome to the month of love and people we love on Dishing with Debbie. It's February 16th, 2023, and I am thrilled to be joined by Susannah Meyer, my girlfriend. She and I met many years ago. She was working I think you were working for Mount Diablo, the Diablo region, right? Meals on Wheels Diablo region.
Before it was named that.
Formerly Senior Outreach Services, Meals on Wheels Senior Outreach Services. Yeah, back in the day. And I listened to this woman speak. First of all, she's statuesque. She's gorgeous. She's tall. She's like, she walks in a room and you're like, wow, kind of like this Stevie Nicks.
This is why we're friends.
Yeah. And
my monthly payment will be to you soon.
Yes, thank you. I'm waiting for it. All right. So, but she's articulate, she's passionate, and I had known her for years, right? In this role, she's doing outreach, she's doing development, she's doing all these different things. And we ended up together at a backyard party where we had purchased tickets for it at a fundraising event in Pleasant Hill. And the band that was playing was inviting people up. And Susannah went up and took the microphone and sang, it was a Stevie Nicks song, wasn't it? Or was it yeah, it was a Stevie Nicks song. Stop dragging my heart around. This woman can sing. I was like, oh, it's not karaoke singing. It's like professional singing. I was like, how did I know this woman for years and not know that she's got this incredible, incredible voice? So she sings, she speaks, she works her tail off. And at some point we got into like sort of talking about like how difficult it is in nonprofit organizations to navigate politics and to navigate the various things in community that should be happening, but aren't happening. We're like, you should run for office. And she's like, yeah. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen, she's the vice mayor of the city of Brentwood now. And she went through the Build a Bench program with the East Bay Leadership Council. Like she's a mother, she's a wife, she's a girlfriend, she's
almost a grandmother.
And almost a grandmother. Exciting times, and just so many, many different layers. And I want to say for me, like one of the most impressive things to me about Susannah is her sheer integrity. There is never like, I know people ask me to do stuff sometimes and I'm like, is that kosher? Like, can I really do that? Can I put this here to make it okay to justify me doing this here and there? Like Susannah just knows immediately that's not cool, or it is cool, and we can do it. Like her integrity is it's so core to who she is that she doesn't have to think about whether or not something's okay to do or not do. But I love Susannah, and I want to welcome you to the place and space. Welcome to Month of Love. And I think maybe what we can start on is what is empowered aging, because I think that people had trouble knowing what an ombudsman was to begin with. And now the name empowered aging evokes emotion and it evokes like this vision. But what is it exactly? And it's in the chat for those who want to go to the website. But Susannah, tell us, what is empowered aging?
So first, I have to say I'm a big fan of Dishing with Debbie. Been watching it almost all the episodes. I'm trying to catch up on the ones I missed. So thrilled to be here for that. Empowered Aging has been around for over 50 years, started as Ombudsman Services of Contra Costa County. And again, Ombudsman, the name it's a unique name. It's a little confusing. What does it mean? Is it a friendly visitor volunteer? Ombudsmen are trained professionals, trained at the state level, very, very rigid training process, in fact, that go into long-term care facilities of every size and advocate for residents. And they are advocating against neglect or abuse. They're advocating for quality of life. They're working with administrators and staffers on training to help them serve better the people that are, their residents and their vulnerable residents at that. So Ombudsman is what started our agency, and we've got offices in Alameda, Solano, and Contra Costa County, with Ombudsman Services still being our primary work. We are state mandated. We are serving those living in licensed facilities, older adults and adults with disabilities. And that is the main program. And so we have volunteers that come in and help us to do that work. We have an incredible MSW internship program, and they are helping us do that work. If you did want to, by the way, anyone interested in volunteering can certainly reach out, and we would love to talk to you about volunteering in any one of those counties. We also in Solano have an elder justice program. So taking the justice work and the protection of those that are most vulnerable, again, older adults and adults with disabilities, in Solano County and working with them on a more direct level through our elder justice program. And we also have friendly
that we
visiting.
partner on. That we partner on.
We're partners with
Might
Trace and
we
Aging.
say.
Yeah, we're partners with Trace and Aging in a few different projects that are ongoing. So we also have in Solano County the Friendly Visitors and Telephone Reassurance program. And in Contra Costa, we currently have our Healthcare Career Pathway program, which is an absolutely amazing partnership with Mount Diablo Adult Education and Opportunity Junction. And what it does is it brings people in who have had barriers to successful career paths. Some of those barriers might just be access to education, some might be transportation, some might be facing some kind of trauma or some other barrier or discrimination. And so the program brings people in with those that face those barriers and trains them in a very intensive certified class to teach them how to be CNAs, certified nursing assistants. We know, especially from our work at doing ombudsman work, this is a huge crisis in California. There's the direct care workforce. It's way too small. It needs to be much more robust. It needs to be a lot more attention given to it. During COVID, we learned a lot of lessons. One of them was a shortage in staffing can mean death. So there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot to this program that is, it was recognized actually as a master plan for aging pilot program by the governor. So some really good things happening there. We're actually expanding that program into Solano County and Alameda, and it's got some statewide growth that's going to be happening in the coming years as well. So some really exciting things there. And I think what people need to know about us, like overall, the biggest thing that we focus on is the protection against the neglect and abuse of adults. And again, living in long-term care facilities in Solano, living in their independent homes, and really raising a voice. And this is one of the reasons we partner with Trace and Aging. It's one of the reasons we partner with Meals on Wheels, Diablo Region. We work together in a way that we're trying to cover all the bases. One of our partnerships is in East Contra Costa County that has been historically underserved. And so we are working together to make sure that people there have access to whatever support service they need. And that's, again, one of the partnerships that we've got with Trace and Aging now.
Yeah. So let's break down. That's a lot.
It is a lot. And it's hard to encompass everything into one name. And by the way, I should give a shout out to Caitlin at Meals on Wheels Diablo Region, because, you know, she's one of our incredible partners in this work. And Nicole Howell, Caitlin Sly, by the way, and Nicole Howell, who is the one, the previous executive director for Empowered Aging. And she's the one that brought me into this amazing work a year ago. Just about a year ago. Yeah.
So let's break down for a minute. When you say long-term care facilities, like people, I'm not sure that everybody understands what a long-term care facility is, because I think many of us grow up thinking that there's just a skilled nursing facility, and back in the day, those were called like rest homes or something like that. Like they've had different names, right? Like, so what is a long-term care facility? Like, what is the span of those?
There's a lot of shortcut names for it. There have been a lot of names of sick bed, the board and care, the nursing home, all of that, assisted living. But it does cover, for us anyway, it covers anything that is licensed. That is RCFE, which is a residential care facility for the elderly. And so it's going to be your skilled nursing, it's going to be the 6 beds, it's going to be the assisted livings, where someone is living in a congregate setting that is licensed, where we can go in. We are required by the state as part of our mandate to go in and do visits on a regular basis to check in to make sure that we are always accessible, and in the case of crisis or emergency. And so our marketing materials, our educational materials are on site in these facilities at all times, so that if someone comes in as a resident brand new, they aren't really sure what their rights are, they have access to knowing how to reach us at any time. That after hours, there's a crisis line that goes to the state. So regardless of when a call comes in, regardless of what the call involves, somebody's going to be on the other end. And that's critical.
Yeah.
And we do a lot of family care conferences. I was talking a little bit earlier, just a little bit about the educational piece, because a lot of times new staff comes into a skilled nursing facility and maybe they aren't quite clear on what the requirements are, or how to interact with someone who's got a mental health issue, a behavior issue, that kind of thing. But we're also working with the families to help them navigate that whole, transitioning their loved one into a skilled nursing facility, for example, even on a temporary basis.
Yeah. And you haven't been around in that role long enough to get harassed by me regularly, like poor Nicole Howell did. But certainly anytime there was any incident happening in the world that I felt like needed eyes on it, or I have a friend who had a fall and broke her hip and they're going to discharge her, and I want to know what's the best facility in Solano or Napa or, wherever. I mean, Nicole Howell was getting texted and her phone blown up by me, because that's so helpful for us to know, because you are in these places and spaces on the daily. You are, your staff is, your volunteers are, your interns are. So you really get a sense of where people are getting the best coordinated care, the best person-centered care, the best responsive care, and who works best with families and care support circles. So for us, it's a huge bonus to have the Ombud services for that reason as well. So it's not just that the residents' rights, because that's important too, obviously, that they're being met, but that other community-based providers who want to ensure that as people transition into congregate care settings, that they can have some knowledge and some insight from somebody who spends time in there on a regular basis. So that's been a huge, for us, a great part of the partnership with Empowered Aging.
Well, and I want to say, I think it's important to note too, that to remember the humanity part of it, because the state mandates the work that we're doing as it does. I mean, we're all mandated by the government contracts that we have, but there is a humanity to it. There's a person in room 218. So when you go into a facility and you know that there's a resident being referred to by a room number, that's not a good feeling. That's not what any one of us want for our loved ones. And it's, we see that happening. And sometimes that's just a coachable moment. Sometimes that's something that's been taught. There's so much going on. Remember people by their room number, and our ombudsmen are like, this seems a little thing to you, but it means something. Your perception of the people that you're serving, of these people that are someone's loved one. This is critical that we understand the humanity, that we remember that. My father, and I've shared this before, but it's always hard to talk about. Last year, he lives in New Hampshire with my stepmother, and she felt the need to put him in a memory care facility last year. And so this is meaningful to me on a different level now. And I try to think about the residents we serve in that way. And I try to think about my father being dignified. And I don't personally feel that he belongs there, but he sometimes feels he doesn't belong there. I think it's a matter of really remembering the humanity, remembering the person behind this case and behind the room number and behind the folder that you're looking at that has all of their medical information in it. And I can say without a shadow of a doubt that every one of our team members at this point is seeing that person as a human being that deserves the care and the attention and the love, and they deserve to be heard. And so much about this is raising voices. It really is, of the people that no longer have them, the people that can't raise them on their own. They require support in that way, and we are that support. We help them to raise their voice and to be heard.
So Kay Patrice Williams is joining on. She's on the Facebook side of this. She's not in the Zoom room with us, I don't think, but she said, congratulations on this role, Susannah. It's such important work. And yes, services need to be humanized. And I want to thank you for that lens and for pointing out that people are not evil because they refer to somebody as a room number. It's a coachable moment. We all can get completely overwhelmed in the work of the day. And we do know in skilled nursing facilities, those staff are radically impacted by a shortage in the caregiver workforce.
They are.
And so they're caring for
and a turnover. The working conditions, right? Yeah. There's a fast food bill that went into effect at the beginning of the year that was talking about fast food workers and their rights and their need to have livable wages and a safe working environment and a healthy working environment. And I think that's fantastic. I think those are people that sometimes get overlooked as well, but I really want that for our care providers. I want the same thing for our care providers. And, Debbie, you're not afraid to speak on a state level and to advocate on a state level. I'm not either. I'm going to take every opportunity I can to meet with legislators and talk to them about this work.
Yeah. And you have a new way to do that because you have you're not just coming in as a nonprofit provider of services, you're coming in as an elected official. So talk to us about how that changes the playing field for you.
It really does. And it's interesting to you mentioned the whole build the bench thing. And I want to just give a quick little shout out on that. The reason I even considered going into elected office is because of you. You posted this build the bench survey on Facebook. And I was like, well, people have told me I should do this. I might as well take the survey. And I took it. And I'm like, okay. And I took the survey and I reached out to the build the bench, qualified for the program. 2 weeks into it, I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm never doing this. Because they talked about the impact this can have on your family. They talked
Wow.
about the impact it can have on your personal sense of well-being, your sense of self, your confidence, your ability to be yourself and retain who you are as a person. And it was like, as much as I want to serve my community, and I feel like when you have that gut feeling about serving your community and as a child, that stays with you for your whole life. And I feel like it has been like that for me. But the negativity of getting into politics, I hate politics. I really do. And so I took this full course because it was really helpful information. COVID hits. A year later, I'm like, you know what? I need to stop talking about what needs to be fixed and actually do something about it. One of the reasons I wanted to get into it was because we're districted now in Brentwood through a process I'm really proud of. It was very transparent. The district that I serve has the highest percentage of older adults in the city of Brentwood. We've got Somerset, 4 Somerset communities. We've got Trilogy, which is active older adults. We've got, at this point, there are 3 assisted living facilities. 2 of them have memory care. So it felt like if someone was going to be the voice for this population, then I had some experience in this area and I wanted to be able to be that. And it does change things. I hope to be able to speak what I'm speaking, to vote the way I'm voting, considering all of the ages and all of the people and across the city. And again, like we were just talking about earlier, raising voices of people that don't always have the chance to be heard. So it's important to me, like if I have the chance to bring someone forward for a proclamation, I'm naturally going to go to someone who's older, who doesn't naturally get the public's attention because they're not at the mixers and the meetings and the events necessarily. They might be older, they might be at home. So I'm going to try and bring them forward and raise their voice. But it's interesting too. I have to be cautious. I mean, I'm in Brentwood specifically, I'm a dual role. So I don't want to speak out on behalf of an assisted living facility I think is great as a vice mayor, when in my day job, I need to be very careful about that. And it kind of goes back to the ethics. It goes back to the ethics, and I was thinking about kidnapping my father and bringing him to live in Brentwood. And if he did need assisted living, it would be weird to have my father in a city where I'm the vice mayor, because I wouldn't want him to get special treatment. I wouldn't want myself to get special treatment. But that might be a natural feeling for someone to go, oh, it's the vice mayor's father. Of course, we're going to, So there's all of these things that you don't think about unless you're living in that moment. And I think being an elected official, and again, I'm not saying politician, there's a lot of things that you have to think about through a different lens. And so when, like in my day job, if someone tries to give me a gift, I can't accept a gift. I can't accept over a certain value, because in my night job, if you want to call it that, as counsel, I'm only able to, I have to report things to the FPPC. So these ethics that you talk about, there's not a lot of gray. There's a lot of, you need to be really careful. You need to be very transparent. You need to be extremely cautious when you're noting all of these things. It's really important. I mean, people have access to my records, as they should, but it does change the way you look at things.
You have to have multiple Excel spreadsheets in your brain at all times, tracking all the things. So speaking of gifts, you joined our Wise Women crew of birthday lunching women in the aging world some time ago. And we do exchange gifts where it's allowed, where we're girlfriends, where it has nothing to do with politics or anything else like that.
Friends are okay.
Friends are okay. Friends can give gifts.
Yeah.
But talk to us a little bit about how that was instrumental in where you kind of are in your place and space right now. Because you had left us for a minute, right?
I did leave for a minute, but I kept
Susannah
my ties.
was at Meals on Wheels, and she was in her nonprofit world serving our beloved elders. And then she went away.
Well, I wasn't disappearing though.
No. You were showing up in a different way.
Yes. It was a different service. Yeah. So speaking of shout outs, Shirley Crone, the ultimate wise woman for us, when I was with Meals on Wheels, brought me into the legislative committee of the Advisory Council on Aging, serving the area agency and aging, advising, I should say, and brought me into that world, into the legislative work group. And in a way that I was kind of, do I belong here? Am I going to feel like I have imposter syndrome? Do I know what I'm talking about? I mean, advocacy is one thing, and I'll speak until I'm blue in the face on behalf of someone who needs help with that. But you got to understand the bills and the framework and how things work on a state level. And so she introduced me to that. And Meals on Wheels was going through a transition, and I stuck it out for a while and felt, you know what, my voice is not the same here as it was, and I need to move on to something. And I think I'm going to learn what I can do a little bit more on a state level. I actually worked as a senior district representative representing East Contra Costa County for Senator Steve Glazer for 2.5 years. During that time, because of my nonprofit background, because of my service to the older population, the senator assigned me anything involving social services and older adults. So when COVID hit, and this honestly was my favorite thing about the job, and this is what kept me connected to nonprofits. We did it started as a phone call, then it went to Zoom with nonprofits that were serving the people that were the most vulnerable to all of the impacts of COVID. And a large part of that was older population, but it was also the homeless and the people that were, struggling to get food on the table and whatever it was, people who had lost their jobs because of COVID. So we brought together a large group of nonprofits, and then on it starting weekly, and then went to bi-monthly, we just had these open discussions about what can we do to help? What can the state do to help? How can the senator get involved in pushing something forward that's going to benefit? And it helped me stay really connected to the nonprofit world. And I missed it. And I ended up, when I left, the senator was really very supportive about the whole thing, but I got back into nonprofit, which is where I belong. Nicole was one of the people on that call. You were one of the people on that call. This is how I kept my connections, and I kept my ear to the ground.
The award-winning calls.
The Red Cross recognized, it was a huge honor. The Red Cross recognized me for that. So Nicole brought me back in to Empowered Aging. I'd met her years and years before when I was working for a nonprofit that was recruiting senior volunteers, they called them. And I met with her to try and help her to recruit ombudsman volunteers. That's how I met Nicole. I think it was like 8 years ago, something like that.
Wow.
Anyway, so I was very aware of the ombudsman work and of her work. So it wasn't a huge stretch for me to feel like this is home. And it is. I mean, nonprofit work in general, and specifically working with older adults and adults with disabilities, this is where I belong.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree 100% and wholeheartedly. And I think that probably the rest of the world agrees as well. So you have all of these different facets to your life, and they all intersect, and some of them conflict at some times, and it's a complicated mix. And your escape from that can often be sitting with just one other human who plays guitar and singing, or being in an entire band and being up on stage and being outside and singing at events and singing at restaurants and singing at different places and spaces. So how does that work into your incredibly busy life?
It is escape. It very definitely is escape. It's a creative outlet. But I have to say, one of the harder things about being elected is sometimes you feel like you lose your sense of self. So it's and your ability to be an individual human. You're seen as a politician, you're fair game for just about everything. And that can be hard. I mean, it's what we asked for. It's what we knew we were getting into it. And everyone deserves a voice, and everyone deserves to be heard. And you can come to a council meeting and scream at me all you want if you think I've done something that isn't right, but I guarantee you I will always be fighting for residents. So that can happen. There can be some negativity. So I really, especially now, need that. I need that creative outlet. When you're singing and when you're up on stage, you cannot be thinking about your day job and the people and the staff that's depending on you. You can't be thinking about the pothole on the street that you're getting complaints about for the city as the vice mayor. You can't think about those things. It's your job to perform and to bring people into your world and out of their own concerns and worries and hardships. This is the moment where you're supposed to be helping people to feel good and to be connected and bring back memories. So it's a fantastic outlet. But the thing that I have done, which is a bit sad, I don't perform in Brentwood. I have in the past. There's a few venues there that I've performed at, but I don't do it anymore. And that is because if someone were to show up and take a picture of me or take a video of me and post it with some kind of a negative comment, I feel like it would take that away from me. It would take the joy away. It would take that escapism away. So I do stuff in other cities, and I don't actually talk about it very much on Facebook. I don't tend to post videos or anything because I don't want to lose that joy and that feeling of this is who I am. But if anyone's interested, there is one coming up in the summer at Sugar Barge in Bethel Island, and I'm pretty much monthly.
Oh my gosh, it's a great fun. Yay.
You can reach out to me and private message me, and I'll share that with you. And I want to say too, when we talk about this whole kind of self-care and being okay, and I can't even tell you how amazing my husband, my two sons, and my daughter-in-law are, and my mom and my sister and my brothers. And I am surrounded by an incredible network of my family and friends like you that I can call if I'm really struggling and feeling like I've lost myself and feeling like there's too much negative coming at me at one time. There's hard things happening at work and there's hard things happening in the city. And I just need someone to give me a hug. And it happens. It's like I'm a human being, but
Yeah.
Like I said, I have this amazing, my husband, John, my son, Zach and Jacob, my daughter-in-law. Oh my God, I have a daughter-in-law. That just happened in January. Bree, the hugs I get from them, they bring you back in. It remind you that you're loved, and you need that sometimes. And people need to remember that, yes, we are accountable. I'm accountable to every resident that I serve in the city of Brentwood. I'm accountable to every resident of every long-term care facility in the 3 counties that we serve. I'm accountable to everyone. And I want to help people feel heard and recognized and have their voices raised. But sometimes it makes me feel small. And so I depend on friends and family 100% to help me just be myself again, and to recognize that it's okay to feel sad about those things. It's a hard thing. There's a lot of accountability and guilt that you feel like you're constantly feeling it. You need to advocate for someone. So anyway, I do depend on you. Thank you, Deb. You've been great about that.
So we are at time, but I just want to say that was the perfect ending. Like sometimes at the end of dishing, we do like, if you had a magic wand, and I think you just said everything. Like, I want to be accountable. I want to be here. I want to be there for you. Hug me. Like recognize we are human beings. Love each other. Hug each other. Yes. Support each other. Hug each other. Love each other.
Raise each other's voices. Let's watch out for our most vulnerable. Let's remember that we're human.
Remember that we're human. I think it's a beautiful ending note. And now everybody in the Dishing with Debbie world can see why Susannah was here in our month of people we love. Now you can love her just like I do. So thank you for joining us, Susannah. I know you are a busy, busy, busy human being and appreciate you. And I hope that everybody has a safe rest of your day and week and a wonderful weekend ahead.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Trace and Aging.